and welcome to the Imagineering Support Brokerage Network vlog. This is episode 10, and today we're talking to Gary from Gobby. Hi, Gary. Thank you for being here.
Hi.
So Gary and I met, a couple of months back now, I guess?
Yep.
At a amazing co-production event in Birmingham, which will probably come out in the conversation later on a little bit. And we had a bit of a meeting of minds and realised that it would be quite fun to do some work together, and maybe test out a few ideas and approaches to joint working. So that's how come we're having a chat today. I'm not going to say much more because I think it would take away from Gary telling his own story. So I'm going to pass straight over to you, Gary, to introduce yourself properly and to kind of tell us about kind of how you came to where you are now with developing Gobby. Where did the idea come from? What inspired you to do it? All of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that'll all come out in the conversation. I might interrupt you every so often if I've got a question about something that you're saying. But yeah, if you want to just give us a bit of a little whistle-stop tour of your journey with Gobby, and a little bit about who you are and your background, that would be great.
Yeah, grand. So I come from a health and social care background. So as a school leaver, didn't know what I wanted to do. My auntie Janet said, "You'd be good at working with people," and lo and behold, I ended up working in social care, predominantly with people with learning disabilities and autism, and quickly found that I loved it. I loved working with people that thought differently, experienced the world differently, as I did, I think, and did that for a good number of years in different capacities, predominantly in sort of day residential services, and then worked for the National Autistic Society for probably 15 years in different guises, through to managerial roles and also learning and development, and then ended up in a quality assurance role. Now, that's really where the concept of Gobby came, because as part of that quality assurance role, I thought I'd better go back to school and do something cerebral and get my brain cells working again, and did a diploma in quality assurance and management. And to cut a long story short, Gobby comes from a place really of anger and frustration, much like any sort of innovation, wanting to do things a little bit differently. The course content for the diploma was really focused on quantitative data, numbers. Does it fit? Does it not fit? And as a kind of a pseudo behavioralist, I was more interested in what made people tick, what annoyed people.
Yeah, right.
What did people love? What differences in people's perceptions drove their sort of behaviors, rather than just being labeled as difficult or dynamic or whatever. So that's kind of where Gobby came from. And because I did a dissertation as part of that diploma, and I wanted to ask more open questions. I wanted to say, what are the things that, you think we could be doing better? What are the things that you really value? What ideas have you got, for doing things differently? And there was nothing out there that really did that, other than asking people direct and getting a lot of rich kind of qualitative data back, which I then had to then go through myself and apply my own prejudice and discrimination to what fits where.
Yeah.
And I thought there's got to be a better way of doing this. So that's really where Gobby comes from.
Fantastic. So that's the kind of why.
Yes.
So I guess the next question is what is Gobby, and what does it look like, and how does it work, and why is it amazing and useful and helpful to our work in health and social care, and probably much wider than that as well, because it's not just about health and social care, is it?
Most definitely. I mean, I'm at a place now where Gobby really sits within the sort of co-produced or co-production research space. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but it is amazing, and I'm really proud of it. But it's been a long time coming. It's been the initial idea was back in 2012,
Oh,
and then I went,
wow.
yeah. So, you know, it's not because I'm just slow, but I picked it up. I thought, you know, I'll do kind of a TripAdvisor style website, maybe for the autistic community to use and understand more about the attributes about what makes services, you know, good or bad or indifferent for people that are neurodivergent. And I thought, well, that involves lots of people going to a place and building a community, which I just didn't have the budget or the resources or the skills to do. So
Yeah.
I dropped that as an idea, although it's still a good idea. Anyone can pick that up and run with it if they like to. But I ended up going back into project management work and ended up burning out, working for various different people, and picked the idea back up in 2018, whereby I shifted the idea to an open sort of website to more of a kind of an online survey tool. And I thought, well, people that have got organizations have got their own communities, they've got their own people to engage with. And they've got context about what questions to ask around the pain points and around what people value, etc., and ideas. So why don't I produce just an interface, something that's more conversational, something that involves people? You know, we talk about the word engagement, and one of the frustrations and anger of using the more traditional surveys tools is that if we're having a conversation like this, you know, vlogs are really good because you ask an open question and I can just spout and impart my knowledge and wisdom and insights and flannel and whatever else that comes out. But if I ask questions about, you know, what did you enjoy most about your recent holiday? Was it the sun? Was it the pina coladas? Was it and I gave you a list of options to choose from. That's really stilted, and that's really kind of designed about what I think your quality of your holiday looks like. And then if I started asking you about, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are those things, you know, which is most important, or, you know, how would you rate the waiter's skills from 1 to 10? I mean, how boring and horrible is that conversation going to be? So, you know,
And also my concept of 1 to 10 might be different from your concept of 1 to 10 as well.
absolutely, it's just not engaging. It's just not conversation. It's
Yeah.
not two-way conversation. So I decided to kind of make surveys, turn surveys on their head. And so, to answer your question, it's an online survey tool. But instead of focusing on quantitative data, we're getting people to conform to those kind of ideals or those metrics or of what quality looks like. I want to put it into the hands of the people that have got shared and lived experiences to be able to say what's important and get other people to corroborate that and validate it, so that people in power can listen and be informed and close that perception gap between people that are living and experiencing and people that are making the decisions, are the purse holders and the people that are have historically got the power to wield that decision making at will.
So real meaningful feedback that actually matches lived experience rather than a preconceived set of answers
and
that people must choose from.
Absolutely. And, you know, co-production, I'm just going to share my screen. Co-production really, co-production wasn't in my vocabulary when I first started. But I was talking about co-creation and co-design and stuff like that. But co-production really does work, you know, in terms of what I'm doing with Gobby, because it really celebrates diversity. I'm a member of the Co-Production Network for Wales. I'm a member of the Co-Production Collective out of UCL. I'm immersing myself in networks where people have got shared values. And what really kind of touched me really was that if you do link people's shared experiences and people can talk with one voice as part of a group, you can engender change. And if you've got people that are willing to listen, and so that can then build trust and engagement, and that when people ask more questions in the future, they're more likely to answer them. And I think that's where real traditional surveys kind of fall down a lot, because going back to the point around the rating scales, what 3 means to me will be very different to what 3 means to you. We force people to respond in isolation in a darkened room with a platform that's asking questions that may not be relevant, or certainly answer options that may not be relevant. And if I do put something in the other box, a free text, I don't know whether that's representative of others, or the person receiving that information doesn't know whether it's representative of others. And you can have more focus group style stuff, but it can represent the few, not the many. It could be the loudest voice in the room. It's got to be really well facilitated. But co-production does that really well and really sensitively. So I'm bridging this gap between qualitative group insights and, I guess, quantifying that in order for decision makers to be able to say, yeah, okay, we need to do something about this, rather than seeing individual.
You've got to put the responses in some kind of a logical order for the decision makers to actually make sense of it, haven't you? I guess.
Indeed, yeah. This is really about where the power sharing element of co-production comes in, about saying, right, okay, here's a voice, it's corroborated by a number of people. Now the onus is on you to do something with it. And you know, if you're not going to do something with it, you know, you can't start complaining that there's not trust and engagement and use of services.
Absolutely.
So just really quickly, just to kind of for the viewers, the way that it works differently to your more traditional is that you can ask more open questions. This is a kind of a design principle for the survey tool, but you end up with an open question. You start typing something that's meaningful to you, you know, a positive sentiment, a negative sentiment, an idea, a description of lived experience, and you can see a number of matches within that cohort or that group of people that have been invited to engage in that particular subject matter. And you end up then with a list of responses in relevance order, not in hierarchical order, not the ones that are most popular, and you can then click on the ones that mean something to you and make them your own. And there's safeguarding built in for reporting abuse. But essentially, this is about sharing voice, sharing things that matter, corroborating them, validating them, getting that kind of rich qualitative statement and giving it a quantitative punch. For those people that are listening. And to put it into context, I did some work with the Co-Production Collective in 2022. We ask a range of open questions around the value of co-production. And this question here, what are the results, positive and negative, of power sharing in co-production, elicited lots of responses, you know, quite a range. We asked a few questions, but got lots of answers out of it, some of which were really highly voted for and produced themes that were really meaningful to that group and also to the people that were reading the report. So, and it makes my job easier as an analyst then to be able to say, well, that becomes a tabulated sort of theme, and I can create a range of themes based on peer-generated insights, and then give that back to the people that are making the decisions for investment and innovation and doing things differently and rewriting the rules. So that's essentially kind of how Gobby works in a nutshell. And that's, I guess that's the what. And I'm at a point now where I'm testing that theory and saying, why should we be doing it the traditional way when we could be doing it differently?
So cue the Imagineer and Support Brokerage Network audience. So we've been chatting about this, haven't we, for a little while now, and thinking about how we could help to test out this amazing, I don't know what to call it, a tool? Is it a tool?
Yeah, let's call it. I mean, it is essentially
an approach. It's a resource, isn't it? And that's super exciting for lots of reasons. I can see it working for a whole range of reasons for a lot of people in our audience. So, for example, we work alongside a lot of people with lived experience who will be accessing or drawing upon or purchasing services of some description for their support. Then we also work alongside professionals and practitioners within the field of health and social care and community development as well. So there would be, you know, services who might find this useful as a tool for engaging with the people that they support. We engage with local authority commissioning, health commissioning, and a whole range of other partner organisations, all kind of linked into this kind of work. So there will be a whole range of people watching this video, hopefully, and seeing the information about this opportunity who might find this really interesting and want to have a go at it to kind of get a sense, get a feel for how it works. So we want to offer that opportunity for you to have a go of it. So in order for that to work, we have to have a thing that we are talking about to test Gobby out with. So the thing that we've decided to test out initially is around the theme of training by Imagineer and the Support Brokerage Networks. We've got a range of training that we offer regularly at the moment, which would include things like support brokerage training, person-centered planning facilitation, graphic facilitation. Those are a few of the different training courses we offer. We also have webinars that we produce on different subjects relating to self-directed support and health and social care, people who are employers who employ their own staff to support them as personal assistants, for example. So there's a whole range of different themes people want to have training on and would find helpful in developing their knowledge and their understanding and their skills around different areas. So what we thought would be great is if we could set up a Gobby survey around the subject of training. What training would you find helpful? What themes? How are you going to apply that in your own context? Is it through work? Is it through your own personal lived experience? So we can really get a sense from our audience about what people want. And we've always tried to do that as a social enterprise. Our mission and our purpose are very driven towards the practice of self-direction and making life work for people as citizens living in their own communities. So we've always been really keen to talk to our audience, find out what they want and what they need, and then develop stuff that's going to be helpful to them. So this tool, this survey, is going to be a really good way of us like discovering that, and hopefully we're going to get some really helpful insights that we wouldn't get from the normal kind of tick boxy survey that people often get sent through email and Google Forms and MailChimp and things like that. So this is our kind of our idea, isn't it? Gonna see how we can engage people. So I picked up on the strap line on your logo actually when I was just going back through our prep for our discussion, and I wrote it down because I thought it was great, and it says more answers, fewer questions. I knew I'd mess that up. More answers, fewer questions. So that's what we're wanting to get out of this survey. We want more answers. We want to ask fewer questions. And we want you guys to do more of the sharing of information that helps us to understand from your perspective what's going to be helpful. So is there anything else to add in that, do you think, Gary, around like what we're planning to do and how we're going to do it?
I don't think so. I think the important thing for anyone that is interested in giving a Gobby approach a go is that there's a process, a loose process, a co-produced process that sits alongside the use of the tool. So I think it's important where there's a lot of talk about things like stakeholder analysis and segmentation and knowing who's in the room. That's the most important thing. And for us, I think it'll be around understanding who we're going to be inviting to contribute to this, so that we get a good range of opinion. So we've got some governance built in, what sort of communications and terminology and tone of voice that we'll use for it, not overcomplicating it, but just making sure that it's as accessible as possible. So that when people then do contribute, they can do so feeling quite comfortable. They're sitting in their living room, and that they can just be able to produce those insights that will be really important for you to be able to design the course content in respect of what people need, and then for us to then feed that back to those people that have contributed and close that feedback loop, because I think that's one of those things that often does get missed as well, is that people who ask their opinion and then never hear anything ever again, and it's a crying shame. So it's not just the survey tool that I'm trying to promote here. It's really about really rewriting the rules and really kind of really pushing change that's kind of more meaningful, I think, and that's what we'll do our level best to try and make as part of this process.
Yeah. So that leads quite neatly into our ask, which is in order for us to do this, we need to have a way of sharing the survey. So the way that we've decided we're going to do that is through our mailing list subscriber audience. So this is our invite to you that if you're not already on the Imagineering Support Brokerage Network mailing list, we would ask you to sign up. And when you click the link, which will be in the show notes below this video, it'll give you an opportunity to say what you want to be contacted about, and there's a tick box list. If you on that list tick the box newsletter and general updates, I think it's that way around, it might be the other way around, general updates and monthly newsletter, that's the box that we will use to send information out to people who want to participate in this survey. So you can tick as many of the other boxes on the list as you want as well, because there's things around specialist areas of interest like training updates, the support brokerage network, peer support. So that's particularly for people with lived experience who want to connect with others. So there's lots of different options on there. You can tick as many as you want, but make sure you tick the general updates and monthly newsletter option if you would like to be part of this survey. And then when we come to push the survey out through the mailing list, it'll be people who have ticked that box that will get the email. And likewise, if you've ticked that, then you will also receive our next monthly newsletter. Always comes out at the end of each month. And the monthly newsletter is what we will use to update people on what has been happening with the survey and any new content that we're developing as a result of that as well. So hopefully that's going to keep the narrative going. Keep the conversation going with our audience, but it's also a really great opportunity for any of you that are interested in Gobby as a tool generally, just to have a play with it, to understand how it works. You'll be helping out Imagineer with gathering some information about training and learner requirements for our audience, but also it gives you an opportunity to test the tool out and see what it's about, and then maybe pick up a conversation with Gary separately about how he can be working with you or your organisation as well. So hopefully that's going to be a win-win for everybody. And yeah, I'm super excited to give it a go and see what it's like, because I don't know about you, Gary, but I am an experiential learner. You can tell me about it, you can show me things, but it's only when I have a go myself that it really sinks in. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've got to say it's prototype stage. This is like first to market new technology that's more person centered. It needs some refining, but I don't care. This is really about experimentation, and experience, giving it a go, learning from it. I'd be always keen to hear about how it can be improved. So, that's the exciting element of it. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years. And if anyone's interested in, shall I just share my details now? Would that be a good thing to do?
Yeah, if you want to do that now, that's great.
Yeah. So these are my contact details. For anyone that's interested in contacting me direct. I think that should be on screen.
No, not yet.
Oh, hang on, let me try again. Ooh.
You click the share screen button.
Oh yes.
There we go.
Okay, let me just move down to this one here is the one that I'm looking for.
There we go.
Does that
More
work?
answers for your questions. Lovely.
Yes, that's the one. And my email address is down here so that people can get in contact with me direct. Good.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Right.
Thank you, Gary. So
Okay.
we'll finish up as we always do at the end of each vlog conversation by asking some questions. So we always ask our guests a question that they can pass on to our next interview guest. But we also then pass on the question that was posed by the previous interview guest. So I have given you a little bit of pre-warning of this. I'm not just springing it on you. So the question from our previous guests, which were John Dalrymple and Francis Brown from Radical Visions, they were in episode 9, talking about Radical Visions up in Scotland. So the question that they posed for you, Gary, and they didn't know it was going to be you, so it could have been anybody. So the question is, what, if anything, still surprises you in the course of your work, and what provokes your curiosity?
That's a really good question.
It's good, isn't
Probably
it?
two questions, but I think the first one, I had to give this a lot of thought. So I think the first one is that I came in as a social entrepreneur with quite rose-tinted spectacles. I was kind of naive, and I was thinking, right, if you build something and you do it well, it's going to change the world, and people just fall over to support you to do it. The reality is that if you're doing things on a shoestring, and that you're trying to build something up from scratch with an idea and a concept, doesn't matter how much is built on values, it's really difficult. There are people that there are the haves and there are the have-nots, and although I did know that coming into this, it's become starkly more apparent. It's a real uphill struggle to get anything new to market, even if it's innovative, with all of the backdrop of where funds and support networks that are out there. It really is those people that have actually got further up the food chain that end up, taking more of that kind of rich fruit to be able to get their own things going, and it's a real frustration. So the provoking element for me is about leveling the playing field, and that's become more and more apparent in developing Gobby as a tool that can help level the playing field and close those perception gaps and share power, but also to support those people that are wanting to change the rules and develop things and make things different and innovate. And I would like to spend the rest of my career supporting those people in whatever capacity I can do, because I've been there, and I am currently very much there. So I think that's probably the best I can do with that one, I'm afraid.
No, that's wonderful. It's a great answer. Thank you. And have you got a question to give to our next guest?
Yeah, I have. I think it's kind of it feeds, or it goes on from what I said really about for the next guest. What rule are you currently breaking?
Oh, that's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah,
What
so
rule are you currently breaking?
and I think if anyone's doing anything, if you're an employee or you're a volunteer or you're whatever role you are in society or within an organization, I think we should all be aspiring to break or rewrite at least one rule. And I'm not going to take all the credit for that. I'm going to give some credit to these good people.
Damn.
Yeah, so if you've not read Be More Pirates,
Yeah.
I read it recently on holiday and bloody loved it. And
It's
and
a really good book, isn't it?
read it to anyone. And I
Yeah.
think, things like rewriting the rules really kind of struck home. So so I've got shares in it, by the way. I just wanted to
No, it's always nice to have a recommendation. We like that. I might put a link to the book in the show notes underneath, actually, so people can check it out if they're interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's essential reading, and I'm not much of a reader, so it's fantastic.
That's a high recommendation then.
High
praise.
recommendation. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for coming on and chatting about Gobby. Chatting about Gobby. Gobbing about chat.
Yes.
Sorry. I love to play with words. Yeah, Gobby's a great with the name, by the way.
The name really comes from in quality terms, when I was doing my dissertation, it was all about voice of the customer, and voice really kind of rings true. But I wanted to choose a name that really kind of spoke to people
Yeah,
in a more kind of informal way. But voice doesn't work either. I think Gobby infers more opinion and having
yeah,
an opinion, and that those opinions and those experiences that people have are of value. So as much as it can be seen as a
right.
slightly derogatory term, I think Gobby is really about empowerment. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure somebody is going to pull me up at it at some point, but
It's
I stuck to
got
it.
quite an assertive connotation to it, which is what I like. And
I
Gobby
hope so.
sounds assertive, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
that is what it's all about. It's about asserting your views and your
Yes.
opinion and
Yeah,
your
and it doesn't matter
thoughts.
who's got the loudest voice. It's about just contributing and seeing how that kind of resonates with the rest of the people that have got
Yeah.
those shared experiences. So yeah, I'm kind of pleased with it, and the domain name was available, so that's always a godsend.
That's always a win, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Love that. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, I think that's a great place to land. So all that's left is for me to say thank you very much for your time.
thank you for the
Watch
opportunity.
this space. Very, hopefully very soon. Get my words out right. We'll be getting ready to send out that survey. So we've got to do a bit of work on it first. But if you, in the meantime, sign up for our subscriber list so you don't miss out when it gets sent out. And then you'll be ready to participate as soon as we've got it all ready to go. I'll just do my usual plug and then I'll say goodbye. So obviously we've spoken about the mailing list. We've also got our YouTube channel, which you will be watching this on. But please subscribe to the YouTube channel because it helps to push our videos into the feed for other people to discover as well. So we're trying to have as many conversations in the space around self-direction, individual choice, control, citizenship, human rights, all of that kind of stuff, community development, all of the good stuff. So the more people that subscribe to the channel, the more people hopefully will see the videos, which is the idea. We want people to find out about all the good stuff that's happening. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Twitter or X, whatever it's called nowadays, and on Facebook under Imagineer and Support Brokerage Network. And yeah, have a little look at our website as well if you fancy it. There's loads of good stuff on there all around self-directed support and a lot of the things that we've been talking about in this vlog episode. So we'll put all the links in the notes below, and until next time, have a great summer, what's left of it, and thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you very much.